When modern India gained independence, it needed a symbol of unity and ethical governance. They placed this 24-spoke wheel at the center of its flag. That symbol has an origin rooted in blood. It was forged over 2 millennia ago by a ruler who bankrolled the spread of Buddhism, yet terrorized his own people. The citizens who lived under his early rule knew him as Ashoka the Terrible. History usually builds its monuments to conquerors on horseback who defined their reign through expansion. Leaders like Alexander the Great tied their legacies to perpetual, unending warfare. Roman power, epitomized by Julius Caesar, functioned through the continuous, bloody subjugation of perceived enemies. Governance was an extension of the battlefield. Ashoka broke that cycle. The question is how a deeply paranoid, ruthless dictator chooses to dismantle his own military machine at the peak of his strength to build a lasting legacy of nonviolence. Ashoka's rise began with rejection. Born into the Mauryan Empire as an unwanted prince, historical texts describe him having rough, irritated skin that his father found physically repulsive. Cast aside for his handsome older brother, Ashoka turned toward pure, lethal competence to claim his rightful place on the throne. When a massive revolt broke out in the province of Taxila, the king sent Ashoka, likely expecting he would die in the field. Instead, Ashoka crushed the rebellion with such efficiency that he proved his capability to the entire royal court. That capability turned inward when his father fell fatally ill. Ashoka launched a brutal 4-year civil war to seize the throne of Magadha. Tradition holds that to ensure no one could challenge his right to rule, Ashoka executed 99 of his own half-brothers. By the time the crown touched his head, his court was entirely purged of rivals. He secured his early empire through a sophisticated torture facility, disguised as a manicured paradise garden. Rumors called it a literal hell on earth, a place designed to ensure that no dissident who entered would ever leave alive. Ashoka's early reign was a pure exercise in hard power, a system of governance built entirely on fear, bloodshed, and absolute military domination. Only one major threat remained on his borders. On the eastern coast lay Kalinga, a wealthy republic that controlled the crucial trade routes to Southeast Asia. They refused to submit to Mauryan trade dominance. In 261 BCE, Ashoka moved to break them. He deployed hundreds of thousands of infantry and heavy war elephants, marching east with a demand for absolute surrender. The people of Kalinga fought back, but they were overwhelmed. The resulting slaughter was industrial in scale. 100,000 Kalingans were killed, and another 150,000 were driven into forced exile, where many died of starvation and disease. When the fighting stopped, Ashoka walked the battlefield to survey his victory. For the first time, he stepped out of his role as a distant commander and stood directly amidst the carnage. Seeing the orphaned children and the sheer volume of corpses, the emotional wall he had built since childhood shattered. He experienced a complete psychological collapse. Kalinga exposed the fatal flaw in Ashoka's reliance on force. Military supremacy could command total compliance, but it destroyed the very society a monarch was meant to govern. Following his collapse, Ashoka embraced Buddhism, but rather than retreating to a monastery, he decided to use the state's absolute power to institutionalize empathy. This rock face shows how he practiced radical accountability. Instead of hiding his history, Ashoka carved the details of his own war crimes and his deep remorse into the empire's geography for his subjects to see. These 50-foot polished pillars were erected across thousands of miles to replace the war drum with Dhamma. Written in local dialects, he decreed religious tolerance and created a ministry of kindness, ensuring the poor, elderly, and imprisoned were treated fairly. This extended into infrastructure. Ashoka built free medical clinics, planted shade trees, dug public wells, and established the first veterinary hospitals to care for animals. Ashoka saw that peace is a fragile state unless it is reinforced by the active funding of public welfare. He recognized that stopping the violence was only the beginning. Realizing that weapons could only conquer land, Ashoka redirected his empire's immense wealth toward a different strategy: global diplomacy. This map traces his diplomatic reach. He sent peace embassies and missionaries far beyond India, establishing ties with kingdoms in the Mediterranean, Egypt, and Greece. His daughter and son carried a sapling of the original Bodhi treaty to Sri Lanka. By bankrolling these missions, Ashoka ensured the spread of Buddhism across Asia, creating a living legacy that survives 2,000 years later. While the Mauryan Empire eventually fractured, Ashoka's ethical framework endured. In 1947, newly independent India adopted his lion capital and the 24-spoke wheel as their official state emblems, looking back through millennia to find a symbol of unity. Ashoka remains the only absolute monarch to voluntarily lay down his weapons at his peak. He proved that lasting greatness is measured by the systems of healing you leave behind, not the scale of the destruction you cause.